Hey, this is Capability Amplifier. I am here today with my good friend, Hal Elrod. Say hi, Hal.
Hey, everybody.
All right, and this episode is how to create a mainstream miracle movement. Why is this so important? It's because Hal has sold nearly 4 million copies of the Miracle Movement and some of the other books, and his coursework is actually inside over 200 schools. They're changing the way kids are thinking about and learning and behaving in schools in really profound ways. So you're going to learn a ton from this episode because I got into how did Hal create this movement in the first place, what motivated him, and he's got a great hero's journey. How about you, Hal? What'd you walk away with?
I think my biggest takeaway was the fact that you asking me the questions helped me to understand what were the steps that I used to launch a movement when I had no audience, and then how do you sustain a movement 10 years after you launch it so that it continues to build beyond where it's ever been before?
So the bottom line is this. If you've ever wanted to create a movement of your own, you've ever wanted to create a message that would reach millions of people or just even understand how it happens, you're going to love this episode of Capability Amplifier. Mike Koenigs. I'm here today with my very good friend, Hal Elrod. He's the author, creator of The Miracle Morning and all those products as well. And he's in today from Austin, Texas. He's here with some family. And we got together and thought, man, let's spend some time together in the studio. So Hal, it's always a pleasure to spend time with you.
It's an honor to be here in person, man. It's my first time in your home, in your studio. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to just begin with, why don't we do a mini commercial for Hal Elrod?
Okay.
If you're going to tell we'll call it your origin story, your hero's journey in 2 minutes that leads to Miracle Morning, give us the basics. I haven't heard your evolved pitch in a while.
Yeah, that's because I'm long-winded, so 2 minutes is going to be tough. But,
nothing. Creativity loves constraints.
There you go.
So,
all right, here we go. I grew up very mediocre throughout my whole life, right? Really didn't get good grades, wasn't a great athlete, you name it. I really settled for mediocrity and didn't believe in myself. At 20, I met a mentor.
You
Good
too.
Job. So many of us. At 20, I met a mentor who changed my life because he really believed in me, and I believed in his belief in me, and kind of started to fulfill my potential. A year and a half later, I was hit head-on by a drunk driver at 80 miles an hour. I was found dead at the scene, broke 11 bones, came out of a coma 6 days later, told I would never walk again, and it became a shift in my life where I went, what am I meant to do? I think I'm meant to overcome this and start helping other people overcome their limitations and their challenges. 7 years later, financial crisis happened in 2008. I crashed with the economy, lost over half of my income, depressed, in terrible physical shape. I was losing my house. I was in debt, and came up with a solution. And it was a morning ritual. It was that I figured out if I start my day in a peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state, I can become the person that I need to be to create what I want for my life. I started this little morning routine. 2 months later, I had doubled my income during the 2008 financial crisis, and it felt like a miracle. I went to my wife and said, sweetheart, this morning ritual feels like a miracle. She goes, it's your miracle morning. I go, I like that. I love that. Wrote it in my schedule every day, started teaching it to my clients. And within a matter of months, every one of my clients was doing the miracle morning, and they were getting extraordinary results like I was. And that's when the light bulb went off. And I went, if this changed my life, and I wasn't a morning person, it's changing my clients' lives, and they weren't morning people, this could change the world. 3 years later, I self-published The Miracle Morning, and to crickets. I didn't have an audience, right? But I was committed for as long as it took to sell 1 million copies. That was the biggest I could think, was change 1 million lives one morning at a time. I thought I went for it in a year. That year, I sold 13,000 copies, so I was 98.7% short of my goal. Took 6 years, and you introducing me to our agent, Celeste Fine, and getting this translated in 37 languages. Now The Miracle Morning has sold over 3 million copies. There was a documentary made called The Miracle Morning, which features our friends Joe Polish and Brendan Burchard and Layla Ali and Mel Robbins, you name it. And now it's a worldwide movement. It's practiced in over 200 schools. There are over 12 books in the Miracle Morning series. There's a Miracle Morning, app, and on and on and on. And we're just continuing the mission is to elevate the consciousness of humanity one morning at a time.
I love it. Well, congratulations. All right. So I'm going to do one more little thing that I think is really interesting about you because not too long ago, you moved to Austin, but then moved onto you bought a plot of land. Mm-hmm. You're really close to Tucker Max. I know a lot of the people who listen to us know who Tucker Max is. Who is a fascinating guy.
As we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, yes. It's really, I love Tucker. He's not for everyone, but man, he's got an incredible brain. And you are raising turkeys and chickens. You just had them butchered. Your wife has now learned how to clean them.
She prefers the word processed.
Processed, okay, yeah. I grew up,
processing
on a farm, it was like, I didn't personally, but my dad did, and I spent a lot of time on a farm. So yeah, I guess that's what I got used to hearing. That's interesting. I haven't revisited that in a long time. Oh, the politically correct version of murdering animals. But anyway, no, it's not murder. If I'm just curious and get raw here, what compelled you to make that leap? What was the motivation? And what's the vision you have for this lifestyle that you've chosen for you, your wife, your children? And I'm curious about where that came from.
Yeah. So we had moved into a neighborhood, and we bought the house next door to friends of ours. Mm-hmm. So it was like, the dream, right? You're living next to your friends. Then another family that David Osborne and his wife Tracy said, I told David, we bought a house next door to Tim, and he goes, I'm jealous. And then he buys a house in the neighborhood as well. Then our friend Mike McCarthy buys a house in the neighborhood. So we have 4 families living in this beautiful neighborhood in Austin and living what you'd imagine was the dream. And then some of the there's pros and cons to everything. Some of the cons started to emerge. And one of the cons was my kids never wanted to be home because they had, a dozen friends all living in, each family had a few kids all living in the neighborhood. And I read a book called Hold On to Your Kids, which was by Dr. Gabor Mate, and I forget the name of the other author. But it basically talked about how our children are being raised by each other, and they're not qualified to raise each other. And we need to hold on to our kids. We need to bring them back into the way it used to be, where kids were really raised by their parents, which you'd think we still do that. But again, they're spending so much time with with other kids. And so then I started to go, gosh, this is really difficult. I'm fighting with the kids in the neighborhood. I mean, not literally, but right, I'm fighting with the attention from my children. And here's the thing is, if we say no, it's like, oh, now we're the only parents that are not letting them hang out with the other kids. So now they resent us. So that was part of where I thought, man, I love these families. I love these people. There's so many great things about it, but I kind of want some distance. I want some separation. So that was one of the factors. The other factor was watching society kind of break down during 2020 with, the riots and all of these things. And as I looked more and more into how fragile our society is, my wife and I thought, let's be self-sustainable. Let's make it so that our food isn't reliable on this fragile system. Let's grow our own food. Let's raise our own food. And then we also like the idea of let's have our kids out in, how fun would that be to live on land? Yep. And for our kids also, I felt like they weren't working hard enough. Right? Meaning like their life was way too easy. And I go, they're not learning any skills. Like I have friends that grew up on farms, my buddy John Rulin. Yeah. And he's the hardest working guy I know because he was up at 6 a.m. feeding the animals and milking the cows and you know what I mean? And I thought, man, I want my kids to have to get dirty and work hard. And so my wife and I just started talking about, what if we were to move out into the country? And we started looking at property. And actually, it's funny, Tucker Max, our buddy, he and I had a conversation. And he said, yeah, we're looking for land in this one area. And there's a bunch of families out there that are like-minded, that are all looking at this, creating a school and so on and so forth. And so that gave us direction of, let's look in that area. And so interestingly, before Tucker found a spot, we actually moved first.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I take credit. Tucker followed us
There you
out
go.
there.
Good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
job.
I'm sure he would argue that. But no, and then he ended up moving 13 minutes from us. And so we're on 32 acres. We have 25 chickens. We have a 38-year-old tortoise. We have 2 sheep. And we're just getting started. You know, we're just getting started on the animals, and we're building gardens, and there's pros and cons. There's a lot of days in full transparency where I miss my quarter-acre lot. That was a hell of a lot easier to take care of, you know. But I go out there and I watch the sunset over the back of our 32 acres, and it's our slice of heaven on earth. So, so I love it. And the vision is that we are completely self-sustainable, and we've got a lot of other families out there that are all on the same path, doing the same thing, and we're all kind of supporting each other.
Yeah. No, it's I went out and visited Tucker's property, and I knew about this going on. I didn't know you were the first to go.
Yeah.
But I love the vision. I grew up in an environment like this, and that part I miss. I really do. There, like you say, there's pros and cons. It's one of the reasons it's motivated us to do what we're doing in Mexico.
Yeah.
I told you about that today. So I think what I am next curious about, and by the way, that book, Hold On to Your Kids, it's Gordon Newfield and Gabor Mate, which I've got the link. I put it in the show notes already.
Such a good book.
There we go. It looks interesting. I really love Gabor. I just saw him actually at Joe's not long ago. So getting back on track here to your evolution, what I've always found fascinating about you is, you know, when I met you, you were coaching. You had just, I think, maybe just written or was about to write the book. It was early on in your career. And I can remember, man, this guy is so hungry. And you were just crazy enough to pull this off. You know, it was like to believe in yourself so much and hold on to this vision and figure out how to get there no matter what.
Yeah.
And then as I watched you evolve, I'd see you speak, and I saw, you know, a big improvement and change your speaking ability. Now you make a great living speaking and presenting, and you know what you were doing today. I was listening to what you're doing, and you just like you've really grown into this. So I'm curious right now, what's your current business look like? Like if you broke it down, what's the you know, where's the revenue come from? How's it structured? Where is it right now? What do you imagine it to become, given the fact that your kids are how old right now?
My daughter is 13. My son is 10.
Okay, yeah. These are such great years. Great years.
Yeah.
Said the guy with the 20-year-old. So, yeah, I'm really curious what your vision of the next 10 years looks like, if you think that far into the future.
Yeah. Yeah, so when I wrote The Miracle Morning, and I wrote it out of a sense of responsibility, it was like, this changed my life so dramatically, and it's changing all of my coaching clients' lives. I have a responsibility to share this with the world. It was not, I think this will be a best-selling book idea. Not at all. And then when I started, before I published the book, it took me 3 years to write it, and before I published it, I was teaching The Miracle Morning in interviews, and I was giving speeches on it, and I was coaching people on it and all this. And so I had so much social proof of, wow, this really helps people. Like I had a gal, this saved my marriage. I had a 19-year-old kid that's got me off my depression meds that I've been on for 6 years, and now I'm not taking him anymore after doing The Miracle Morning for 3 months. And I'm like, that's profound, you know? Yeah. I had one gal who her dad had committed suicide, and she said, I've spent 10 years depressed. I started doing The Miracle Morning a few months ago, and I'm like, I've made peace with it. So I was like, I have to share this with the world. And the biggest I could say or think, as I mentioned, was change 1 million lives, right? Because that's like the big number. And then you choose the arbitrary time frame, which is 1 year, you know? And that year, by the way, I did 152 podcast interviews. I launched my own podcast and did 52, weekly episodes. I gave 36 speeches around America. I was on 13 morning talk shows, including some national NBC talk shows. I engaged on social media. I did everything in my power to change 1 million lives one morning at a time. And as I mentioned, we sold 13,000 copies, right? But I was so committed because of the impact it had made for all the reviews I was getting on Amazon and how it was changing these lives. I thought, it doesn't matter how long it takes. I will spend the rest of my life to reach 1 million people, right? And it took 6 years. And after 6 years, we surpassed 1 million copies sold. And now it's been 3 or 4 years since then, and we're at almost 4 million copies, right? And so the way that I look at it is 3 million lives have been impacted. And not to mention, by the way, the lives of everyone that they impact, because I hear the ripple effect of, I'm now such a better mom because of my Miracle Morning. I'm so much more patient with my kids, right? I'm such a better CEO because of my Miracle Morning, right? So the impact is, I mean, the 3 million books, but who knows how many, millions upon millions of lives have been impacted as a result. The way I look at it, though, is 3 million copies sold, 8 billion people need to hear about the Miracle Morning. In 2016, I wrote a 10-year vision. And one of the pieces of that vision was the Miracle Morning is practiced by every school in America. And as a result, bullying is almost non-existent. How are you going to bully with the kid that you just meditated with and you listen to him be vulnerable and shares affirmations and so on and so forth? Mental health issues for kids are at a minimum. And again, that was seeing it happen from these other teens and so on and so forth. Kids' ability to focus, like I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was younger, on Adderall for many years. Felt like it was very detrimental in a lot of ways to me. And I thought, the ability to, now I use my Miracle Morning to focus. So I thought, wow, if kids could learn that and not be on, medicated, so on and so forth. So I set that goal, and it's amazing how sometimes the idea of manifesting, right? You write something down and then you don't even know how it's going to happen sometimes. It's great to make plans and have step by step, here's how I'm going to get there, which a lot of my goals I've done. But a lot of them, it's like, I don't exactly know how I'm going to get there. And now, Brianna Greenspan, who is the co-author of one of the books in the Miracle Morning series, there's about a dozen or so books. She wrote The Miracle Morning Art of Affirmations, which is a coloring book with affirmations for adults and kids. Brianna has single-handedly created a position for herself as the director of education for the Miracle Morning, and she has single-handedly gotten the Miracle Morning in over 200 schools just in the state of New York. That's our test state, and the results are profound. The first school that ever implemented it, they had a huge problem with detention and suspensions. They've been doing the Miracle Morning for roughly 9 months. They went from it being one of the worst schools in their district in terms of suspensions to 0. Mike, it doesn't even make sense. Wow. If I hadn't have gone, I went there 2 weeks ago, met with the principal, went and saw the students and showed me their affirmations. And if I hadn't have seen it firsthand and her explaining, Hal, we're at 0. We've been at 0 since we began implementing the Miracle Morning in our schools. So the mission of the Miracle Morning, once we reached 1 million people, it had to change, right? Well, okay, we've now changed 1 million lives one morning at a time. Now what? Now it's to elevate the consciousness of humanity one morning at a time. And that's not just a cute, fancy, inspiring sounding tagline. It's literally what happens when a human being, right, when you dedicate time every morning to your personal evolution, to your personal growth and development. When you become more aware of how your thoughts, your words, your actions are impacting your life, yourself, and the people that you reach and that you impact, you are elevating your own consciousness. And now that we have millions of people doing that, and it's spreading to millions more, and eventually billions of people, it's literally elevating the consciousness of humanity one morning or one Miracle Morning at a time, if you will. And so the vision now is to continue the movement, to continue to reach more people. Like I said, number one, 3 million people have read the book and begin the practice. So I have 8 billion people to reach, and I'll spend the rest of my life doing everything in my power to reach those people. And then, one of those initiatives that I'm so excited about is the Miracle Morning in schools, because to learn the, meditation, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, journaling, to practice this as an elementary school student or a high school student, right? The impact, the way that's going to elevate your consciousness as your brain is still developing. I can't even imagine if we had these tools, Mike, when we were that age.
Hey, this is Mike Koenigs. Sorry to interrupt the podcast, but if you're an action taker and ready to transform and reinvent yourself and your business, go to connect2mike.com to learn more and book a conversation with me right now. All right, back to the episode. Wow. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. While you were going through that, I realized the name of this episode is called How to Create a Mainstream Miracle Movement.
Okay.
And what I'm hearing and what I'm super curious about, because I'm very much like, how? I want to go into how mode.
Yeah.
So I want to deconstruct. First of all, congratulations on that. I had no idea that. First of all, I didn't realize you're up to almost 4 million books, and I didn't know about the school thing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Beautiful. If there was something to celebrate, I am with you. I think ignorance is forgivable, stupid isn't.
Sure.
And one of the things that you have the ability to do here, you're clearly doing, is bringing a way of thinking to kids. And if you want to change a society, we've got to change our children, and you've got to give them a reason to think differently. And we talked about this in the previous episode we recorded, which is create a new identity, a compelling future. And that's a big part of what A Miracle Morning is all about. So here is the question. Earlier I had asked you, like, what is it that have made the biggest impact so far in creating your movement? So here you are, you've got a miracle topic, A Miracle Morning. It's something that could appeal and apply to anyone, no matter where you are. You've created a franchise of books and allowed other authors to write like you, very similar to what Jack Canfield did.
Sure.
With Chicken Soup. And I'm curious about the domino movers, the things that have made the biggest difference. So you did a bunch of stuff when you got started to create the movement, which was you spoke everywhere. You said yes to everything. You got on a bunch of podcasts. You did a lot of media, and you wrote your book, and you were a grinder.
Yep.
And then, boom, you started creating that movement, and there was no boom there. It was just like, but I know there are things that made the biggest differences. If you're going to sort by most effective looking down, what were the most effective domino movers then?
Yeah.
And looking at what you have right now, what are the most effective domino movers now? So if you had to pick from 3 multipliers, that like if you had to do 3 things that made the biggest impact, what are they? What would they be? So go the then and do the now.
Yeah. Yeah. So first and foremost, I think writing the book, right? That allows you to solidify your ideas, and it forces you to figure them out. Right. It's one thing to talk about something, and every time you talk about it, it might be a little different. When you actually have to write a book, I'm going through the process right now. I'm writing a book called The Miracle Life. And I've been talking about these concepts on my podcast for 2 years. But having to write it in a coherent flow forces you to really get clear on the message that you're trying to share.
Yep.
So writing the book was a big, was monumental for a lot of reasons. One is obviously that's how the movement has been created and spread and so on and so forth. Here's the piece, though, about the book. The Miracle Morning book, yes, I did a lot to promote it, but it then became a word of mouth phenomenon. And example of that is the year that I had cancer. Well, basically the year that I was in the hospital fighting cancer, I went from, promoting all the time to zero. I was in the hospital for most of 8 months, doing 700 hours of chemotherapy, fighting for my life. And so I wasn't doing interviews. I wasn't doing speeches. I wasn't doing any of that. That year, we sold more books than any year before. And that was the 5th, 6th year since the book published.
Yep.
So it was strictly people reading the book, telling other people to buy the book, right? Not me driving it. So I've been asked a lot, like, how did you create a book that what made it go so viral, right? This is my theory, if you will, my educated theory, is most books shift your thinking, right? You read a book, and as you're reading it, there's a quote, an idea, concept, and you go, boom, mind blown. Oh my God, I've never looked at the world that way. And if anybody's in earshot that day, you might say, oh my God, you got to read this book. You got to read, man, I read this thing this morning. He talked about how the way we communicate with people, whatever it is, right? It's like, and it was a total paradigm shift for me. And now I see the world differently, right? Here's the problem. Most books, because they only shift your thinking, it's very short-lived, right? Because as you're reading a book, it might be the best book you've ever read while you're reading it, and so you tell other people they should read it, but as soon as you're done reading that book and you're on to the next book, now that new book's shifting your thinking, and now that's all you're talking about.
Yep.
What's unique about the Miracle Morning that any author or any creator of a movement can duplicate is it changes not people's thinking, but more importantly, it changes their behavior. It changes their daily behavior, and it changes their behavior in a way that perpetually adds value to their life, enriches their life every single day. And it's a ritual that they install in their life so that long after they're done reading the book, they're still talking about it. I've had people tell me all the time, they go, man, now that I'm a, Miracle Morning person, I'm a mediocre evening person, They go, I'm in bed by, 9 o'clock every night.
Right.
And they said, so I'm leaving dinner parties early all the time, for example, and it comes up. Hey, dude, it's only 8:30. Why are you leaving? I got to get home so I can get in bed because I got to do my Miracle Morning tomorrow. Well, you're what?
What's a Miracle Morning?
What's a Miracle Morning? Well, it's this book that I read 4 years ago. Right? 6 years ago. And I'm on my 1,000th miracle. I mean, we have the Miracle Morning. Well, there's actually a good segue into another one of these pieces. When I was finished with the rough draft of the book, right? But before I transition to the community, I want to just make sure I emphasize this: changing behavior.
Yep.
And if you're listening and you go, okay, that makes sense. If I could share content with people that actually change their daily behavior in a way that perpetually added value to their life, so much so that they'd want to tell other people, God, that makes sense. But hell, if your book is changing behavior, it's literally you're giving them a morning routine. I'm writing a book for couples, right? Or my content's on how to grow a business or whatever it is. How do I apply that? How do I transfer that to what I talk about? Here's an example. Let's say you're writing a book on improving a marriage, right? You just have to ask yourself, what are the rituals and or routines? What are the daily behavior changes that I can give to that couple that enables them to do something every day that maybe enhances their communication or their romance or helps them feel more connected, whatever it is, right? Maybe it's a daily gratitude practice at the end of the day. But what can you get? Maybe it's something they do every, you habit stack and you tie it into their, hey, before dinner every day, start doing this ritual where you share gratitude, whatever it is, right? You can integrate behavior change in any topic. And if you can make it daily, that's ideal because it really becomes a part of their everyday life. And then now they're going, oh my gosh, you got me and my spouse, we're doing so good. Really, right? Think about that. Someone's going to ask, how are you and Mary doing? Yeah. Oh, we're doing great. Actually, we started doing this thing last year and we're still doing it. And man, we learned it in this book. It has just been a total game changer for us. What's that book again? Right? So changing behavior is arguably the most important piece. And then I'd love to shift to community, but if I want to pause and see if there's anything you want to follow up on.
No, I got a ton of notes here, which I'm putting in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen. Because I think the biggest takeaway is, what's unique about the Miracle Morning is it changes daily behavior in a way that perpetually changes and improves their life or the reader's life every day, so they keep talking about it. That is, if there was a massively beneficial takeaway. So I'm not going to interrupt you right now. I know what I'm going to ask next, but I want you to stay on your flow. Thanks for asking for a little break there. Go for it.
So when I wrote the rough draft of the Miracle Morning, I sent it to a handful of people in my world. I sent it to my sister because she's brilliant. And I sent it to my buddy John Vroman, founder of Front Row Dads. Yep. John Berghoff, founder of Exchange. Right. So a handful of different friends and family members. And I said, I want your feedback. And John Vroman came back and he said, hey, one thing I want to ask: do you have any kind of online forum or community where people that are reading your book can go and connect to support each other and share ideas? Because he goes, I'd imagine that Miracle Morning is a pretty lonely thing, right? You're up before the rest of your family, possibly. You're doing it on your own. There's nobody holding you accountable, and it can be real easy to fall back into your old pattern of just snoozing, through the morning. And I said, oh, that's a great idea. I said, what, do you have any recommendations? He said, I would just use a Facebook group, you know? And again, this is 2012. I mean, Facebook groups were you're probably pretty new, but he said, you know, don't create somewhere new that people have to log into. They already got to log into enough places every day. Just go, they're already on Facebook every day. Just put it there. I go, all right, great idea. So I start the Miracle Morning Community Facebook group, and I add the 5 people that read the first draft of the book, right? I'll fast forward. That group now has 338,000 members. And I've never, like those, that's organic. That's people that have read the book and then joined the community. And they wake up every day and support each other. And they're from over, well over 100 countries. The importance of creating a community where people could support each other. And in the beginning, I engaged daily, right? Because there was nobody else. There were just a few people. It was me adding value, so on and so forth. Now it's self-perpetual. I go in there almost every day and I check, I comment, I love and like posts. Of course, I can't nearly keep up. I just try to, I just want to keep my pulse on how's this community going. But it's become one of the most supportive, loving, non-judgmental, accepting online communities that I've ever seen. And here's, it really goes back to the mission of the Miracle Morning mission now is to elevate the consciousness of humanity one morning at a time. If you want to see what that looks like, go log into the Miracle Morning Community Facebook group. Okay. And you'll see this. It's to me, it's one of the finest examples of humanity, people just loving each other and supporting each other. And not even just with the Miracle Morning. I had a gal, she shared, hey, my husband just got a diagnosis. It doesn't look good. I think it was cancer or something. And she said, I know this isn't quite, it's not Miracle Morning related, but this is the most positive group of people that I know, and I don't know where else to turn. I would appreciate, any thoughts or prayers. And within 24 hours, there were 3,000 comments on that post of people. And I go, where else are you going to go to get 3,000 people praying for your spouse, And so, so just the power of, and the optimism of like, hey, the majority of people are still good-hearted people. Right now, ever since 2020, with the political climate and the division that's been perpetuated by politicians, the media, you name it, I think that we are all living in an illusion that's, pardon my French, it's effed up, right? Meaning we actually believe that these people are wrong and we're right. And that these people are so different from us, right? No, that's an illusion. Every single human on the planet has far more in common than we will ever have different. The differences are superficial. You think or believe one thing because you're watching one news station, and I think or believe something, but that's all an illusion, right? So again, it's a reminder. I feel like the one word, if there's one thing we need, and this came to me in like a meditation prayer session, it's unity right now. It's to remember that we're all brothers and sisters. We're members of the human family. And to me, the Miracle Morning is really just it's among many things, but it's a shared practice that every day we can all get quiet and remember what really matters. And remember that we all should be loving and supporting each other and accepting of each other's differences and realizing that we all have far more in common than we will ever have different.
Well done, sir. So a positive community and unity, which involves creating a shared practice. It's just a place to go to church.
That's really what it is. Yeah.
All right. So let's move to the now. Like, what do you believe is propelling this now? So that's clearly a great stack. It's working without you necessarily.
Yeah.
And you did mention early on what Brianna Greenspan did with the Miracle Morning art and putting that into schools. You've got partner books, which you've been able to leverage other people's communities, connections, relationships, followings. But let's say you were going to focus on 3 things that are keeping this in motion right now. If you're going to focus on 3 multipliers, what would they be?
Yeah. One, it's nurturing the community. And that's always been, I think a big part of it is people feeling like Hal really cares and he's showing up for us and he's adding value. For example, when I launched my podcast, when the book came out, I didn't take a sponsor on for like 5 years, and I turned them down one after another because I thought, and I finally had to get over like the reason I didn't take any on is because I thought I launched this podcast to serve my community, and I don't want to taint that with, oh, now I'm making money from the podcast.
Yeah.
And I finally had, a friend that was like, dude, you can do both. Like there's no reason. Donate all the money to charity if you want, but like there's no reason that if sponsors want to pay you and these are products that you use, right? But anyway, the point,
and I'm curious, how many sponsors, how many commercials per episode, and what do you charge? Like,
I do. I have 2 sponsors right now, and I went. So it was hard for me to go from 0 to 1. When I finally did that, then go to 1 to 2. I'm like, oh, now I'm getting greedy, And but then I found 2 that are very aligned. So my 2 sponsors, the only 2 I've ever had. First is Organifi, and this will be our 4th year together or something. And then more recently is a company that's kind of affiliated called Cured Nutrition, and I take both. I won't take on a sponsor unless I have tried their products, love their products, and so those are my only 2 sponsors. Yep. One pays $6,000 a month, one pays $4,000 a month, and that kind of thing. So, but in terms of nurturing the community, so I. 3 or 4 months ago, my team and I were meeting going, how can we better serve our community? And we said people are craving connect. We surveyed our audience, and one was, I'm lonely, I'm craving connection. I love the Miracle Morning community on Facebook, but it's just a Facebook group, right? I comment. I love seeing posts. They light me up. I want to find a way to connect with Miracle Morning community members more intimately. And so we, at the last Wednesday of every month, we just launched the Miracle Morning. It was called the Miracle Morning Community Gathering. This month will be the first. We're renaming it the Miracle Morning Elevating Consciousness Experience. I wanted to really, bring that concept to the forefront, because that to me is what it's doing. And I'm trying to normalize elevating consciousness. I feel like it's what the world needs right now, but it's a very foreign concept. Like if you said somebody, you talk about elevating consciousness, like, I don't know what that means. What is consciousness? What context are you using that in terms of? So the point is, we now do this free event online for the Miracle Morning community. We use Zoom. It's a 2-hour experience. It includes a live guided savers. There's a gal named Lucy Osborne, who is the voice of the Miracle Morning app. We launched an app in January, and she leads people through guided savers. So we do meditation and affirmations and visualization and exercise, all live on Zoom. And then I'll come on and I'll do like a 30-minute, keynote, if you will. And then we have this whole orchestrated into breakout rooms where Miracle Morning community members activate what they learn from me. They set their vision and they support each other and they connect. And it's real and then they come back and share, who wants to share what worked for you, what didn't. So that's been a really powerful way to really serve the community. And some people have said, like, you're not selling it. What are you going to... Like, I totally thought you were this was to sell something. This isn't like a webinar to sell something. This is literally, there's nothing being sold, and none of us are being paid. It's this huge investment of our time, money, and energy strictly to authentically serve the community. It comes back to my initial podcast intention, which is like, I really do want to selflessly serve people and not serve people so that I can get something out of it. And it's a real significant shift in intention. Right. And then again, the problem becomes, well, how do you get over that to actually go, okay, you can serve and monetize your service, right? And so I've had to wrestle with, how do I keep my intention pure of selflessly adding value and also support my family, right? So the nurturing of the community is a big piece. Another piece is part of nurturing, or not even nurturing, but part of serving is adding new value, right? It's just a reality where even if, the most important things that we can do or support each other in doing are the things that have worked for centuries, unfortunately or fortunately, our society's been conditioned to want new. Oh, I need the new app. I need the new. And we discount the old. I've heard of that before. Yeah, but are you doing it? Well, no. But I'm not interested in it because I've heard about it. it's old, right? In fact, I'm guilty. I almost dismissed the savers because when I was trying to figure out what the world's most successful people do for personal development, and I found meditation, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and journaling, I went, all right, well, I guess I didn't find what I was looking for. This is all, nothing's new.
Yeah.
This is nothing new. And then I finally, the paradigm shift was, oh, wait a minute. The world's most successful people have sworn by these practices for centuries. Maybe I should actually do them instead of dismissing them because I've heard of them, right?
Right.
So to that point, the 10-year anniversary of the Miracle Morning book is next month. It published on 12/12/12, December 12th, 2012. So you and I right now, we're about a month away from December. Actually, are we almost exact? That's tomorrow. I think it'll be a month from tomorrow.
Yeah.
December 12th, 2022
Today's the 12th, actually.
is the 10-year anniversary. Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're a month away. And so ever since the book published, right around the time the book published, Tim Ferriss had just come out with the 4-Hour Work Week, updated and expanded edition. And I was a big fan of both books, bought both books, and I thought one day I'm going to write the Miracle Morning updated and expanded edition. And the 10-year anniversary always felt like the time.
Yeah.
So for the last 6 months, I have been completely rewriting the Miracle Morning from the place of consciousness that I'm at now versus where I was 10, 11, 12 years ago when I was first writing the book. And adding 2 bonus chapters, the Miracle Evening and the Miracle Life, which is basically my next book, but trying to get it into a chapter. And so that probably won't be out until like mid to late 2023. I was trying to get it done on time for the anniversary, but we're going with a major publisher. That's another piece of this.
Of course.
Right now, the Miracle Morning is still self-published in the U.S., and it's traditionally published, thanks to you and your introduction to my agent, in 37 other languages. So I'm hybrid, right? I got self-published U.S. Well, now we're missing out on the retail market. And so I've always thought that to reach the masses in the U.S., I need to find a major publisher that will go big and put this in, displays in Walmart and Target and Costco and every bookstore. And so we finally found that publisher, and they're looking at September 2023, I think, as the release date. So, but anyway, that's an important piece, is adding new value, creating new content, keeping it fresh so people stay interested and you can still add value to their lives.
Okay. That was a lot. It was really good. But what I really hear here is, nurture the community. That's momentum building. And then continue to build on the brand. I had 2 reactions. So if I may, can I give you just some thoughts that I got as a marketer when I heard something?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So here's what it was. When you mentioned the name, I'm a big naming guy, and you basically just said, I want to create, we call it the Miracle Morning Elevating Consciousness Experience. And I'm a big believer in sell them what they want, give them what they need.
Okay.
So if someone has to say, what is that and what does it mean? And it sounds neat, but it'd be like, yeah, I don't know if I need that, versus, it's like meet the community or meet new friends. It's like, and part of it is I'm lonely. I'm craving community and connection. And it'd be like if the Miracle Morning Connection Creator or something like that, if the word or description was what you're doing. So give them what they want if there's a lot of demand for that. And I'm not exactly sure what that word should be right now, versus...
I like connection.
Yeah, and I think connection is one of the words. But if you were going to answer this question, so you know what they want, and I would actually survey that. What's the number one thing you want more than anything in your life right now? And what's the number one thing you wish the Miracle Morning could give you? And find out what all those words are. I think the answer would show up from that. And then maybe you'd do another survey question, which is, what is the number one thing you've gotten from being a member of the Miracle Morning community? But if you have that, and again, what you want to help them do is imagine a bigger future and have the experience of receiving whatever that desire is up front. Give them the result, outcome, benefit right away. And if you can deliver that in what it is called, I'm telling you, I think this will grow 5 or 10 times faster, and you'll get a lot more engagement a lot quicker. And then you can always give them what they need by telling them, I'll do this all the time. I'll say, okay, I got you here because I promise you're going to make more money, okay?
Yeah.
And achieve greater status and improve your health and well-being. The truth is that's not really what you need.
Yeah.
Okay? What you need is a new identity. That's what you seek. Yes. So anyway, just to bring this around, I love the miracle life as well. And I think the other thing that I want to commend you on is the fact that you're not monetizing. So I have a tendency to monetize too quickly. I'll be like, well, I'm just going to do it because this way I only get buyers showing up, and non-buyers sometimes are the first to complain and whine and not see value.
100%.
So I don't want the unwashed masses. You're in a different space.
Yeah.
And then, but on the other, at the same time, pigs get fat, hogs go to slaughter. By building this massive goodwill, and then saying, and you can create an event where you've genuinely said, a lot of people are asking for X, and we want to deliver that, but we also want to make sure that the people who show up are the ones who are going to have the highest degree of implementation. So you can frame it as the reason why this is an investment is because, if you want a miracle, you got to show up and invest like it's a miracle, or whatever your language patterns are.
Sure.
But let's wrap this up because I could go on and on and on. But for you, if you are going to, end with a miracle movement, word of mouth phenomenon, if anything else about creating a miracle movement, what would your advice be?
Stick with it.
Okay.
It's often said it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Mm-hmm. Actually, you said this when I was interviewing you. You said that begs the question, what are you willing to commit 10 years of your life to make it an overnight success then, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't realize until I said it that you told me that.
I forgot that.
Yeah. You're so much wisdom out there. No, but here's the thing. So again, my goal was to sell 1 million books in a year. And it took me 6, right? And I could have given up. 13,000 copies the first year. I'm 98.7% short of the goal. That's pretty discouraging, Yeah. And by the way, I pulled out a calculator, and if 13,000, I believe, 1 million divided by 30, I think it was 107. It would have taken me 117 years at that pace. You can run the numbers. Yeah. I'm going to be dead. But here's what I've realized.
76 years.
76, okay.
Yeah.
What I've realized for anybody listening, I want you to think about this, right? Human beings, we're very impatient. We want what we want. We want it now. We look at other people that are succeeding at a higher level, and we're jealous. We're envious. We want to be where they are now, right? And here's what I've realized. When you finally get to the point in your life or in your business that you've been working so hard for so long, you almost never wish it would have happened any sooner. Instead, you get there, you look back, you're like, oh, it had to take 6 years. I had to go through the ups and downs. I had to meet person A year 3 that led to person B year 4. Right? And so, damn, I wasted so much time being insecure, upset, depressed, scared, worried. What a waste of energy. And that to me it's true for life. At the end of our life, I think we're going to look back and go, everything happened as it happened. And every moment I spent in a suboptimal mental and emotional state was a waste of the gift of the life that I was blessed to live. So if you're listening to this right now, yes, wake up every day and maintain a healthy sense of urgency to put one foot in front of the other, keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. But know that when you finally get to the point you've been working hard for so long, the timing is always perfect. So be at peace with where you are on this journey and enjoy every frickin' moment of this one life you've been blessed to live.
Well, I can't put a cherry on top of that, so I won't. So here's what I will say. First of all, thank you so much for being here. means
brother.
the world. And this was fascinating, really great. I've wanted to talk to you about this for a long time, so it's a great excuse.
Nice.
And for you watching, listening, make sure you follow Hal Elrod at halelrod.com. Where else can we send them?
MiracleMorning.com is probably the best place.
Okay.
From there, you can get the book, the movie, the app, the community, all of it.
Boom. And definitely study what he's doing next. Buy all his stuff and join his community if you want to study it or enjoy it as well. This is Capability Amplifier. Hopefully your capabilities have been amplified just listening to this. Now go out and multiply. All right, let's say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.